Hello and welcome back to the Last Word on Spurs. We are, of course, your multi-award winning Tottenham Hotspur podcast. We're back in the building. If it's the first time, you can find us. We're on iTunes, we're on Spotify, we're across all major audio platforms. Things are always happening around Tottenham, so we're here to wrap up all that is news with regards to Spurs in the transfer window and bring you a concrete update as to where things are. Back alongside me, it's the two people driving a lot of this transfer window. And of course, you can see a lot of us on Substack, which we'll come on to in just a second. I'm joined by Billy T, back in the house. Bill, how are you? Love to see you back alongside me.
Yeah, very good, my friend. Very good. It's always good to be back on. And looking forward to another Spurs friendly at the weekend too.
Absolutely. Can we get it 2 wins out of 2? God, it feels like a long time since I've even seen Tottenham win 2 wins out of 2. How long are we going back for? Also back
to 2025, I think, mate.
Sums it up, doesn't it? Also back up the show, I've got the superb Mitch Fretton back alongside us. Mitch, how are you, mate? Lovely to welcome back you to the show. And how's things your end? You good?
Yeah, very well, mate. Very, very well. I'm contemplating whether I'm setting the 4:30 alarm for the friendly on Sunday morning. I'm not sure I've got it in me, but that's all the excitement around Spurs at the moment and De Zerbi and all these new players. So last minute decision, I think, but it's good that we've now got a nice run of games coming up to head into pre-season properly.
Well, I'll tell you what, I think if it was 4:30 midway through last season, I don't think there'd be a soul in the world that would have ever attempted to get up for that game. But now that's on the back of 6 signings and 237 million being spent, it's back under consideration, isn't it? Like I say, if you can for us out there, guys, like, hype, subscribe to the show. That'll be greatly appreciated. I've got to just say to open the show, a massive, massive thank you out there to the audience of Last Word on Spurs who have shown us such tremendous love for the Substack that we've recently got going in the last under a month. We've already had hundreds of you subscribe to Substack with us on there. Check out the extra content that we've been doing for you. A peek behind the curtains that we say it so often on here, that we've got so many shows that we try and cover and so much Tottenham news that we just never really get the opportunity to dive deeper into certain Spurs subjects. That's allowed us to do so over at Substack. So if you are out there craving even more Last Word on Spurs in your life, if you've got the time, then I'd implore you over there to check out what we're doing. Of course, you can find the details. If you're watching the show live or back on the playback, it's in the top right hand corner, that QR code. If you hit that QR code, it takes you straight through to all the great things we've got on Substack. And maybe just give us a rundown, boys, if you don't mind, of what we've done so far and what's to come. I'll hand over to Mitch maybe to start us off.
Yeah, Substack's been really, really great. As you said, it gives us a huge opportunity to kind of give everyone more content, go deeper into things and just try new bits of content as well. So it's been really, really fun. Obviously, it's been relatively quiet on the actual Tottenham fixture front while we've been in the middle of the summer, but we've been doing lots of transfer related content, a few rankings videos. I know we had a little segment on the Substack the other day with George Sessions, which was really cool, where he gave us a bit of an insight over there onto some of Tottenham's dealings and thoughts in the transfer window. I've personally done a breakdown video, and I will be doing more of those of our pre-season friendlies and probably Premier League games going into the new season. As I said, we've done ranking and general more, I guess, opinion videos and chats between the three of us over there. And honestly, we've got so much lined up that I think Bill's going to mention now, but it's a really, really exciting community we're building over there. And if you're interested, if you want to see more of us, more Last Word on Spurs, more of Tottenham, then I'd recommend checking it out.
Yeah, and we should stress, of course, nothing is changing inside the Last Word on Spurs headquarters of a building. It's still as is, but we're offering you even more extra if you want it. Bill, do you want to give maybe an insight as to what's coming up this week in terms of what we've got planned?
Yeah, well, straight after this, we're going to record a buy, keep, sell special with some of the players that are going on tour, which we're really excited to do. We're going to do a tier list. We're going to be reviewing, previewing, and doing a couple of player rankings after every friendly as well. So keep your eyes peeled. So much to talk about. And as always, if there's any big transfers, we'll be reacting to all of them. All the bombers will be live reacting to any bombers that come. We might do a couple, if, heaven forbid, pray that Tottenham sign forward in the next few days. Let's hope they do. We'll definitely be reacting to that as well. And Mitch is really good at keeping us up to date daily with the transfer, all the latest transfer news as well. So we will be there.
Love that. Okay, fantastic. Well, guys, look, let's bring you up to date of where we are with all things Tottenham now. Since the last time that we've been on the show, Tottenham have announced their travelling squad, of course, for their tour of both New Zealand and, of course, latter to that as well, we know Spurs are also, of course, across Australia too. So among the notable absentees, of course, you've got Vicario in terms of the 35-player travelling squad for this pre-season tour. Now, Spurs said in their announcement that the goalkeeper sustained a minor knock in training and will have treatment. So Vicario is going to remain at Hotspur Way alongside Dejan Kulusevski, Mo Kudus, Wilson Odobert, and Xavi Simons. Romero, Spence, Marcus Senesi, Pedro Porro, they're also all absent after their involvement in the last stages of the World Cup, as are Pat Matassar and Rodrigo Bentancur, who've both actually been given extended leave by the football club. The likes of Andy Robertson, Kevin Danso, Lucas Bergvall, Mickey van der Ven, Jean-Paul van Hecke, all of whom are included in the squad. And Senesi is the only summer signing missing out, with Martin Dubravka, Mathis Fernandez and Sandro Tonali making the trip. Now, all three featured in the summer's first preseason friendly against MK Dons in that slender 1-0 win at Hotspur Way. But like we said, there are players missing there in terms of that travelling squad. I just wonder, Mitch, maybe starting with you, was there any real surprise when Tottenham put out that travelling squad of the players that didn't make the tour?
No real surprises, really. I think a lot of the... I guess the main one was whether Kudus was fit enough to travel and be part of that pre-season tour, because, we've not really had much of an update. He's been out since January. There's a lot of talk and rumours going around that he is going to be back and ready for the start of the season, but we don't actually know whether that's true. So that was the name I was kind of looking out for when the squad was announced. But there's some really good young talent going away, which is good to see. I'm hoping Roberto De Zerbi gives all of them a chance. I'm really excited to see Jean-Paul van Hecke in action for the first time in a Spurs shirt as well. Andy Robertson, I'm really looking forward to it. To just seeing all of the new boys. I think there's some exciting additions so far this summer. We need more, but what we do have at the moment is good. And pre-season is obviously a very, very good opportunity for us to get a proper look at them, I guess, because the MK Dons game the other day, while we got to see Fernandes and Tonali next to each other in midfield, it's a bit of a difficult one to gauge much out of, I think. So, it's a shame not to see Kudus on that plane, and Kulusevski, of course, because of everything that's going on with him. We still don't really have a solid official update from the club on it. But fingers crossed they can both get back to fitness soon and be part of this team.
And Bill, for you, in terms of any main takeaways from the travelling squad, was there anyone there that you were surprised that was missing, not included when it came to Spurs putting that announcement out there about their travelling squad, of course, for this upcoming tour?
I think the two that surprised me were Bentancur and Sarr, just because they had a similar World Cup and, in fact, even exited before the two Dutch boys and Van der Ven and Van Hecke, who are both on tour and both were sort of around in and around Spurs this week, so I'm surprised we haven't seen them yet. I know the Spurs have said they've given them both extended holiday. I don't really understand the reasoning there. I think you read between the lines, they're probably looking to sell both of them. I know we're going to talk about that in a bit. But those two definitely were the ones, because, we've got plenty of players that exited around the same time or even after those two. So I think you can read between the lines on them too. And I'm not really sure why they've got extended time away after the World Cup.
Yeah, so listen, we'll see, of course, how Tottenham do get on this tour. First up for them, of course, they are going to face the A-League champions Auckland at Eden Park on Sunday before they travel to Australia for the Sydney Super Cup. And then obviously from there, we know Spurs are going to be facing Chelsea 3 days later. They'll then return to England for another behind closed door friendly, much like the MK Dons fixture. This time they'll take on Getafe at Hotspur Way. We'll then host Hoffenheim at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in our final preseason match. And of course, most of the players who featured in the World Cup, we're hoping, should be back involved. Now, Mitch did bring up Mo Kudus there in the earlier part of the show. And just on Mo, I should just say, we are hearing suggestions that he should be fit for Spurs' opening Premier League fixture against Brentford. So I know there's been some concern around the fact that he's not making a tour. He's still, of course, remaining at Hotspur Way for further rehabilitation. But from what we're hearing, suggestions are that Mo Kudus should be involved for Tottenham's first game of the season away at Brentford, which is now less than a month away. It's come round so fast. It really, really has. We're going to pivot, guys, because like I say, we've got quite a bit to get through on this. I would say really accelerating episode of Last One on Spurs. It's a bit of one of the short, sweet ones that we're going to bring to you. We're going to go to Savinho because, look, I know out there the Savinho saga is tumbling on, he's rolling on. And look, this is a player that I think a lot of Spurs fans at one point thought it was a done deal. It's not just dragged on this window, it's dragged on previous windows as well. The latest that we've heard in relation to Savinho is that it's hit a significant obstacle with negotiations between the two clubs now stalling over a disagreement on the transfer fee. Now, that's a new report coming out from Brazil. That's from Global Esporte, who normally are quite close to things when it comes to links to Brazilian players. So, look, I think what we were hearing recently was the fact that City wanted a replacement before they were willing to grant Savinho the move to Tottenham. Now, it does feel that Savinho is all but really a Tottenham player. If you was to look on social media, you're seeing him like a lot of the current Spurs players' social media posts. You're seeing Savinho like, I think, a number of Spurs-related posts as well. So it feels like the player really, really wants this move. And it felt like only a week ago, this was almost a conclusion. We heard personal terms had been finalised. The player was reportedly maybe on his way to Hotspur Way to pretty much get the deal done. But another week rolls on and nothing really has happened. And we're hearing these suggestions now, Mitch, to start with you, that the move has stalled. How genuine do you believe it is? Because we've spent so much time, not just this summer, of last summer as well, trying to get this deal done.
Yeah, mate, I think it's genuine. I think City been messing us around for the best part of a year on Savinho now, and it's starting to really, really annoy me. I'm tired of it. The issue is now it's one of those transfers now where it's dragged on for such a long time that even if it does happen at this point, I'm like, all right, cool. This should have been wrapped up ages ago. And I know maybe that's a bit me being a bit impatient because we've made some good signings already and we can't just click our fingers and players come through the door and we get the deals done. I know City are looking for a replacement and there's lots of tangibles to a deal like that. But I've always had the feeling that City can't make their mind up as to whether they actually want to sell Savinho or not. I feel like some in the club do, some in the club don't. And to be honest with you, I've always thought there are better options out there that we should be going Hail Mary for. And my opinion hasn't changed on that. I think obviously he wants to come to Spurs, right? I think that's pretty clear by the way he's been acting on social media, the way Xavi's been teasing it as well. But, I just, with how long it's being dragged out, with disagreements on the fees and everything else in between, it's just, it's annoying me, to be honest with you. So no, I'm not surprised that this has happened. And I'm not really expecting it to resolve itself anytime soon, to be honest with you, Ricky. That's
quite a concern, isn't it? I think the worry from what we're hearing now, Bill, is that rather than pushing for a resolution, which Mitch is kind of concerned about there, it's understood Spurs are now waiting to see whether the conditions of a deal become more favourable before making another approach. Now, a patient stance is one that reflects the club's confidence in their ongoing interest, which has been reciprocated by the player. Like I've said, he's done anything but put the Tottenham shirt on. He's been suggesting that he would be really keen on this move. We've seen, of course, the way obviously Xavi Simons, even behind the scenes, has been indicating this could happen. But up until now, Bill, until the guy holds up the Spurs shirt, I'm going to sound like Jason McGovern here, it's not a done deal, is it? So where are you, Bill, in terms of this move? And do you expect it to happen? We've been here not one summer, but 2 summers. I think you maybe throw in January as well. There were tentative links as well. So in the best part of 3 windows, we've been chasing a player down here and it's still not over the line. So do you buy into this concern that there is a significant obstacle that we've hit and maybe we're going to wait to see whether it will resolve itself?
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised they haven't pulled the trigger already, and there must be something blocking it because, it would have been ideal to get him on the tour. He didn't go to the World Cup. It would have been a really good opportunity to really get some time with De Zerbi and the rest of the players. I don't think I'm at panic station. I did tweet something similar to this week. I don't think I'm at panic. I'm not panicking yet, but I am starting to get a bit twitchy with regards to the forwards. There's still 4 weeks left to the Premier League starts, which is a lot of time. 6 weeks till the end of the window. But I just kind of feel like we've done some really, really good work in the window so far with 6 new players. We've been by far the most active team in the Premier League. But at the same time, we all know that the biggest area of concern for us is the front 3, and we haven't addressed any of it yet. So it's starting to get a little bit twitchy. So, I'm wondering what's going to happen. And then I think if it gets to the next, drags into next week as well and the week after, and we don't have a forward yet or a winger, and that's when I'll start to get a little bit concerned because it's such an important area for us. And we even saw glimpses of it in that MK Dons friendly, which I know you can't read a lot into, but some really poor finishing from the striker options that we have. We know that Kudus could be fit for Brentford, might not be. We know Kulusevski was, as we just discussed, who knows when that's going to be back. So Xavi, Odegaard, both long-term injuries. a lot of our forwards are either injured or not quite good enough for the level we want to be. So it's a big area which we need to get sorted. And I think it's a shame if we are going to sign Savinho, because it's a wasted opportunity him not being on the tour, in my opinion.
Yeah, I totally agree on that. And I think, Mitch, just to come back onto the point about the fact of his current status with City, Savinho's return to pre-season training at the City Football Academy, again, I think further underlines the fact that his future is not yet decided one way or another. With the winger, we understand, preparing for the 26-27 campaign under Maresca, while the clubs do remain apart on what we hear this to be evaluation. Now, look, you maybe wonder the question whether the pause in negotiations actually gives City's director of football, Hugo Viana, a degree of leverage that he may not really have expected to retain at this stage of the window, Mitch. Is that maybe a fair point here, that maybe City have got a bit more playing time to bargain with Tottenham, given the fact here we are now coming towards the back end of July, early August, like Billy said there. It's a real missed opportunity to get him through the door, get him on the tour, get him used to playing Roberto De Zerbi football. How do you kind of view that perspective for you?
Yeah, I do agree. I think we could have pulled the trigger on a deal a lot earlier, but from things that I understand and I've read, we've been exploring left wing targets for a long time this summer and deciding who we actually want to go for, which maybe has kind of hindered us a little bit and put us in this situation now. City, to be fair to City, they've had their valuation of Savinho for the best part of the year. They quoted us 70 million last summer, and I don't think the figure is far off that this summer, a year later, maybe slightly less because of obviously having a year less on his contract. So, it's a really, really weird one, because we had such a busy start to the transfer window. Clubs know that we've got money to spend. We've recouped / are going to be recouping more money through sales in the next couple of weeks. And yet, I don't think anyone's under any illusion that buying forward players in today's market is not a cheap thing to do. Wingers and strikers are premium on the transfer market these days. I know we pay a lot of money for our midfielders, but players that are there to score you goals, you have to pay a heavy price for, even if they're only 19 years old, or even if they've only scored 2 goals in the last 2 years for Manchester City. So it's a big area of concern for us as well. So I'm a bit surprised that we've left it maybe until now to try and sort. I thought it would maybe be an area we tried to address immediately, and that's why I kind of expected that Savinho deal to get done a lot quicker. But it hasn't. And I guess none of us know if that's because we're lining up another target or we're just simply unwilling to pay at the moment what City want. I guess time will tell in that sense. But I agree with what Bill said. We need to get something done, in my opinion, in the next couple of weeks. You want to give any player really a couple of weeks to gel with their new manager and their new team with the season coming up. And the last thing we want to do after the few seasons we've had is to start the new campaign slowly, because we've been in this situation before. We know how easy it is for fans to turn and get a bit frustrated, and we really, really just want to start this season as positively as possible under De Zerbi. So hopefully there's just a bit of movement sooner rather than later.
Yeah, and as always on Last One Spurs, we'll update if we get any further news when it comes to Savinho. We most certainly will. Actually pivoting to what could be deemed as maybe an alternative target or an additional target, depending on who you read and who you believe, and that's Eli Junior Kroupi, who we're recording this show on Friday evening, got 0 minutes for Bournemouth in their pre-season friendly earlier today against St. Pauli. Now, I know Spurs social media often gets knickers in a twist, but the Bournemouth end of that social media really, truly did get knickers in a twist over this last 24 hours when there was a message kind of put out to the community, both on X, I'd say the footballing community, where there were suggestions that Kroupi is trying to force a move to Tottenham, but sadly Tottenham at the moment don't want to pay the 85 million that Bournemouth are demanding. Now, again, this is someone on social media that's put this out there. He's a friend of a friend who's got mates in Austria at the moment, and from what he heard, this again is depending on how you want to take this and the seriously nature of this topic, is that apparently Kroupi was kicked out of the training session in the build-up to their game against St. Pauli for not having the right application and attitude. And the suggestion was that he really wants to join Tottenham or Arsenal, depending on who comes to the table this summer. Now, quite interestingly, He didn't play a minute, like I said, in Bournemouth's opening friendly, where pretty much all the other players did get minutes. Now, after the game, new manager Marco Rose said that he was carrying a bit of fatigue. Now, just bear in mind that he's not been at the World Cup. He's just had 6 weeks off. I mean, Bill, he's hardly been on the tools and down the scaffolding in the heat, has he? So what do you make of that? Because, I suppose the thing is, him not being involved maybe leads into more of that narrative that the player's unhappy, wants to move away. But it's impossible to validate that, isn't it? So are we looking into something that's completely irrelevant? Is it much of nothing that I'm kind of catching on to here?
This is my favorite kind of thing in summer. This kind of ITK stuff like this. It's just it's what you live for, isn't it? Really, it's like one level away from tracking planes and all that kind of stuff, which you just live for it all. It is quite interesting that the rumor came out that he was avoiding training because of reasons, and then the manager did confirm that he missed training. Now, I mean, we're clutching at straws here and we're guessing, but it's part of the fun, isn't it? It's all part of the fun. But I mean, yeah, it's I personally would be suspicious about having a player have fatigue, 4 weeks after the Premier League season starts. So I'm going to choose to read between the lines, and because I want it to happen, I'm definitely believing it. So this is my dream. This is my dream signing. This is my dream signing for sure. So I think he will be an absolutely transformational player for us, because I really think he could go on to be a superstar. I think he's got the record for the most goals in a debut season for a teenager. Just unbelievable technique on this guy. And Andrew Seymour in the chat just says PSG are showing interest. I think every top club in the world is showing interest in this guy. He's that good.
Absolutely.
So if we could get it done, we can't feasibly say to him that you're 19 years old. If you come to Tottenham and have 5 brilliant years at Tottenham, then you can go and get your dream move to PSG. We can be that. I know we all want to be top of the food chain, but realistically, Tottenham are never going to be top of the food chain when the likes of PSG are around. So it would be a good step. It would be a good step for him to come to Tottenham, and then he, in a few years' time, if he's as good as we hope he's going to be, then maybe he can go to PSG in a few years' time. So I think it'd be a really good move for him. And for me, this is my top target as a forward. I think he's absolutely sensational.
Well, it's funny, Mitch. I mean, like I said, that thing that was brought to light in the last 48 hours on social media. I know there'll be a lot of people out there saying, don't even give it credence, don't give it time. But I suppose by the fact he didn't even play a minute, and kind of say everybody else did, including Alex Scott, their suggestion is that he hadn't trained enough, so he missed out. But the hope is that he'll be available for their next game against Augsburg. But again, by the fact that the rumours and suggestions were that he was kicked out of training, it kind of feeds that narrative that he didn't have enough training for the game. So Mitch, tell me, are we really catching at straws here, even bringing this up as a suggestion? I mean, look, he's a player that Spurs are interested in, but like Billy says, well, we have to make this clear. He's a player that a lot of the top clubs in Europe will also be looking at. And I've said this consistently with someone like Kroupi. I think if you go to Bournemouth and you put 90 million on the table, as much as Bournemouth, want to keep their best players, it'll be their first season up in Europe for them. I just don't think they can turn that money down. They're trying to build a stadium at Bournemouth. That probably pays for one of the stands, 95 million. I don't know what Bournemouth are trying to build there. They're trying to build, from what we're hearing, a 20,000 seater stadium. If a club comes in and puts 90 million down, I just can't see how they can reject that. Because within 12 months' time, how do they know that Alex Scott is going to be as good as what he has been this season? How do they know that Kroupi is going to be as good as he's been the season just gone by? So I just can't see a world in which Bournemouth, and I might be wrong, that could be completely wrong here, I just can't see them turning down that kind of money if it's put on the table. And you might tell me, Mitch, they've already put that money down. What do you think? Am I clutching that massive straws here?
All I'll say is it's very easy to lie with no consequences on Twitter. Look, I don't necessarily disbelieve the story. And we all know that the interest in Kroupi is very, very real. And we've had those conversations with him and his camp. So maybe there's an aspect of, Kroupi has said to them, look, if Spurs are in for me, then I want to go. And I don't doubt that. I don't see why he wouldn't see us as a good next step for him in his career. And like Bill said, I think it'd be a fantastic signing. He's got real potential. 13 goals in the debut season, looks the part. 19, would be fantastic. I think the issue is not many clubs value him at 80, 85 million, 90 million. And with my football head on, that makes sense and I understand it. Obviously, as a Tottenham fan, I really don't care. And if we were to drop 90 million on him, it's not my money. I'm not bothered. We've got it to spend and we need forward players. But from a footballing perspective, and I guess from a business side of things, which is what clubs will be looking at, it's a big risk to pay that for someone that had a decent enough debut season, but could very easily just not replicate those numbers again because, he's only done it for 9 months. So yeah, it's one of those, mate. I think the issue we have is also the striker / winger market. Well, more of a striker market is
a dearth, isn't it? It's not a great enough strike. It's not
which maybe is why we're fantasizing about Kroupi a lot at the moment, because he's probably one of the best options out there. And obviously, it doesn't help that it does. It helps him, and it kind of enhances the feelings we're having about him when you've got the likes of PSG and Madrid and whoever else being interested in him. So yeah, it's one of those ones, mate. My head is just telling me it's a really difficult deal to get done this summer. I won't rule it out until it's been definitively ruled out, but I personally am just struggling to see it. But I don't know who the alternative is, and that's my dilemma at the moment.
Gut feeling, boys. Just yes or no. Does he leave Bournemouth this window? 13 goals last season. Again, I'll make this point. They're not going to get the better opportunity than now to probably make the money they're going to make on him unless he goes on to have another worldy season next season where arguably there'll be even more top clubs interested in him. This does feel like for Tottenham, this could be our one only moment to grab him because of maybe the trajectory that we're on right now. And maybe Bournemouth, they'll look at him, like I've said, I stick by this. I think for them to get an offer around 90 million for a player that they can invest back into a squad. Of course, I know it's going to be their first season in Europe. Bill, what do you reckon? Gut feeling, yes or no? Is he going to be a Bournemouth player by the end of this window?
Now, listen, there are two types of people watching the show right now. There's people that really get into the transfers and there's people that hate it.
I thought you were going to say, I think so. There's people that love the transfer window and then there's Jason McGovern by himself.
That is essentially the two types, right? But when you see today, and people that are locked in like me and us guys, when you see today that one of our ITKs has gone to the lengths of getting Kroupi's dad's number on WhatsApp, that's when you know that this transfer has got to happen for it to. We can't waste that kind of work that's gone into this. So for me, it's got to happen. We can't have a Spurs ITK getting Kroupi's dad's number on WhatsApp for no reason. So it's got to happen. And if you haven't know what I'm talking about, DM me on Twitter and I'll tell you.
Well, listen, Kroupi's dad doesn't know it yet, but I'm sure we'll be doing a behind the scenes with him on Substack at some point before the end of this window. Watch out for it. Look, we're going to squeeze in our one and only break of this show for our listeners that are on audio. Before I do, Mitch, sorry, I didn't even get Mitch's answer. Mitch, is he going to leave?
Kroupi's dad might be coming on after the break, mightn't he, as well, apparently.
Go on, Phil, get him on the hit line. No, Mitch, honestly, yes or no, Kroupi will be a Bournemouth player by the end of the window, yes or no?
Yes, I think so. I think they're going to be stubborn about it, mate. I think he'll stay, yeah.
Okay, I'm starting with Billy. I think he won't be a Bournemouth player. I just think if someone comes in, like I say, at the money
I think they'll lose him or Alex Scott this summer, one of the two. I think Scott will probably stay.
Yeah. Absolutely. One of the two, I think they can go. Look, we need to pivot to a number of players that are potentially moving out. Before we do, one has come in. We've had his interview this week. Let's hear and go for our one and only break of the show from the superb Andy Robertson, who spoke to Spurs official with a really great interview. Here's a snippet of it as we go for our first break of this show.
That is, I think, I'm right in saying your first ever Spurs shirt with your...
Oh, nice. Do you want me to hold it up or something?
Yeah, let's have a little look. And you can tell us why the number 3 as well.
There you go. Yeah, look, obviously I was 26 at Hull when I first went. I was 26 at Liverpool, but you know, when I first came here, I kind of knew that the 26 number hadn't been used since, you know, the legend that is Ledley King. And yeah, I suppose from my point of view, I kind of wanted to respect that. You know, he was an unbelievable player and obviously done so many good things for this football club. But yeah, also number 3 means a lot to me in terms of that's my national team number. I've had so many good memories as number 3 for Scotland and things like that. So when I knew 3 was going to become available, then it was a no-brainer for me. And yeah, 26 is obviously a really important number to me in my life and things like that, and it will always stay like that. But number 3 is just as important, and hopefully I can make as many memories as in a number 3 shirt than I did in 26.
So yeah, that was the brilliant Andy Robertson, who is in the building at Hotspur Way. Well, actually, not in the building now at Hotspur Way. He's actually he was on the plane to Auckland, being teased by James Maddison, who seems to already have struck up a bromance with him. He joins Jean-Paul Van Hecker and Sandro Tonali, and of course, Matthews Fernandes with our squad that are on tour. So we spoke about a number of players that have made the tour, that haven't made the tour, catch out or look out for, can I say, on our Substack, a tier list ranking of what the futures look like for those that have not made the tour and where they're going to be ending up. That'll be dropping in the next 24 hours on our Substack. You can find that by going to the QR code that is on our live broadcast and also on the playback top right-hand screen. Click on there, and that will take you through to more additional content on Last Word on Spurs. Just so we do a little bit of housekeeping before we go into the second part of the show, a reminder for all written content on Tottenham, you can find that over at Tottenham Roundtable. Now, it's worth me suggesting at the moment there is going to be a couple of giveaways coming your way on both our Substack and Roundtable. So if you're looking or interested in getting your hands on the latest Tottenham Hotspur shirt, home or away, make sure you are being a member on our Roundtable, where you can get all the latest Tottenham news. For those that are watching the show live or on the playback, if you hit that QR code, that takes you through to the opportunity of signing up to be a member, which is absolutely free, and that brings you all the latest Tottenham news. And the same with our Substack too. We'll be bringing you even more information on that very, very soon in terms of the numbers that we need to hit, so you can be in with a chance to win a new Tottenham Hotspur shirt for the upcoming season. But guys, I'm going to pivot, if I can, to interest in our players and potential players that might be leaving the football club this summer. And that takes me over to Rodrigo Bentancur, who until now, it's been quite a quiet, story really around Rodrigo Bentancur. There has been really no suggestion that he might leave the football club. However, in this last 24 hours, it's emerged that Tottenham are reportedly open to offers for Bentancur this summer, which cast doubt over the Uruguayan's long-term future at the football club. Now, when he had been fit, especially under Antonio Conte, what a fantastic player he had been for Tottenham. And you could arguably say under De Zerbi in the latter part of last season, he really did step up for Tottenham and ensure that we did get our Premier League status over the line. However, following, as we know, the double signings of Matheus Fernandes, Sandro Tonali, there is now fresh doubt on his future. And by the fact that he's been given extended leave, of course, for the World Cup, and obviously not part of the tour, that has now sparked fresh speculation that his future may lay away from Hotspur way. Bill, I'll start with you. Rodrigo Bentancur, what do you think is going to happen there with him? Would you be really surprised by the end of this window if Bentancur is going to be a Tottenham Hotspur player still?
I would be surprised. I think it's about 50-50. If you'd have asked me 2 days ago, I would be surprised if he'd leave. And now it seems, reading between the lines again of him not being on tour, then, perhaps he's looking to go. I would have been very surprised at the end of the season because, he was excellent for us in our relegation run-in. Obviously signed a new contract last year, I think. And obviously Palhinha's left, so we're limited on experienced midfielders. But at the same time, I think this is the kind of move that a really ambitious football club would make, because we know that Bentancur has his limitations as a player. We know he has a bad injury record, and we know he's getting on. He's moving into past his prime age. So if there is, it would be quite ruthless, but sometimes you have to be ruthless. But I think personally that he added enough value to himself in the run-in to keep him around. So it'd be interesting to see what happens. I think if we are going to sell Bentancur, we have to get a replacement in, because at the moment, for me, he's sort of third in line between Tonali and Fernandes. So I know that there's a couple of wishful thinking rumours about people like Alex Scott and Morgan Gibbs-White. If we replace Bentancur with one of those two players, it would be an incredible squad upgrade. But otherwise, I'd rather just keep him around, to be honest.
Do you agree, Mitch? Do you think if Bentancur goes, he does need replacing?
Yeah, well, I was literally going to say Bentancur and Sarr out, Alex Scott in. That would be the dream.
I'll take that all day.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a difficult one because you have to be careful. I think it's very, very clear that Fernandes and Tonali are that new midfield partnership. And ultimately, we need players that are going to be squad players. And I feel like, no disrespect to Bentancur, because he's been a great servant to the club over the years. I feel like that he kind of fits that role quite nicely now. That player that we can have, God forbid, when we get injuries, and for if we need to rotate. And I feel like he'd be good to. I think he'd actually be quite good to have off the bench to come on and have a bit of fresh legs and a bit of energy and a bit of intensity on the pitch. Obviously, in an ideal situation, we upgrade in every possible way that we can on the squad this summer. But I don't necessarily think it's essential to do so. I'd rather keep him. I might take that back, actually. I was about to say I would rather keep him and sell Sarr. I think I would. Just in terms of what the profiles of the players are. I think we've got a lot of profiles like Sarr's at the club at the moment. So yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on it anyway.
Okay, we're going to shift and move the dial because, again, we've got quite a few things that we need to discuss on the show. Lucas Bergvall, fresh speculation around him that apparently, as things stand at the moment, Brighton Hove Albion are weighing up again another move for one of our players. Following the signing of Luka Vuskovic only, less than a fortnight ago, it's understood that Brighton are now weighing up a move for Lucas Bergvall. Now, we know that Nottingham Forest were very much keen on looking at Bergvall to be the long-term replacement to Elliot Anderson. They've already had one bid rejected by Tottenham, which is believed to have been in the region of 38 million. Tottenham, we understand now, are looking at closer to 60 million for the Swede. We also know that Newcastle United have had an offer come in that's also been rejected by Tottenham. And there's a common consensus, it feels, in the footballing industry that, as I said, Tottenham are looking for a fee in the region of 60 million for Lucas Bergvall. Now, since we've last been with you, we know that Bergvall has been called up for Tottenham's tour. What are we thinking here, guys? Mitch, just to come to you on Bergvall, are we thinking he'll get some minutes on tour? How do you see the Bergvall situation weighing up? And are you surprised that he did make the tour?
I'm not surprised, no. I think De Zerbi likes him. I think I remember reading when De Zerbi first came in that Bergvall is like a perfect De Zerbi player and he really, really likes him and he sees a lot of potential in him. So I don't think he actually wants to sell him. I think the situation is, understandably, Bergvall wants to be playing every week and he's not necessarily going to do that at Spurs, and he's never really played in what is considered his strongest position. So, hopefully De Zerbi's I would like to keep him, to be honest with you. I know 60 million probably sounds like quite a good fee for him, all things considered, injury problems and the level that he's played and the amount of minutes that he's played in the last couple of seasons. But I really like him and I see a really, really bright future for him. And if we can keep him around, then I think that's the best outcome for us. Maybe he doesn't see that and that's why he's asked to leave. But I don't know, man. I would just be really disappointed if I saw him in like a Nottingham Forest shirt or something like that. If we're going to sell him, I'd rather not sell him to another Premier League club like we have done with Vuskovic. That's just kind of my opinion. But I really like Bergvall as a player, who he is, what he does, the potential he has. And it'll be very interesting to see what his performances in pre-season are like, whether he's got that energy, that motivation. Is he going to, if we don't end up selling him, if clubs have deemed him too expensive for Spurs' valuation, is he going to sit there and sulk? Or is he going to try and fulfill that potential still and prove to De Zerbi and everyone else that he's got that quality that we all think that he has?
And Bill, just on Bergvall for you, how do you see that playing out? Do you think by the fact he's gone on tour, that's a good sign for Tottenham fans that want to keep him? Or do you think it's irrelevant because he'll need game time between now and the remainder of the window and maybe not taking him on tour, maybe reduces his value and maybe reduces, Tottenham's opportunity to get a decent fee for him? Where are you on that view with Bergvall?
I suspect if the move was close, he wouldn't be on tour. So I think it's a good thing for fans that want to keep him. I know it's so easy these days with like plane travel and, the money that football clubs have, that it wouldn't be an issue if an offer came in for him to fly back immediately. But sent a bit of a message for me that I think that they maybe want to keep him around. I think Bentancur and Sarr stay in and Bergvall go in. There's a little bit of a message there, I would imagine. So it'd be interesting to see how it develops. For me, I don't think Tottenham particularly want to sell unless 60 million comes in, which you probably can't turn down. So I think it's a case of, it's a bit like we see with Alex Scott and people like that. Bournemouth don't want to sell him, but if you pay the price, then it can turn around. So I think Tottenham will be very happy to keep Bergvall around next year because he's an excellent young player. But if 60 million comes in for him, then I'm afraid, we'll have to accept that because that's just an insane amount of money for someone who is, of that age and didn't particularly have a great season last season.
Agree. Look, we do need to pivot. I'm just going to quickly let you guys know where we are with regards to Vicario, and I'm going to let the boys take it away with regards to Romero, because again, there's just quite a bit that's happened over the last 24, 48 hours. So just on Vicario, as we've suggested at the start of the show with regards to the tour update, it's understood that Juventus are expecting now to step up their pursuit of Vicario after the goalkeeper was left out of Tottenham's pre-season tour squad. Vicario, as we know, was not included in the 35-man touring party, which just starts that journey to New Zealand. Now, the club have confirmed it's a minor injury that has meant the Italian international has stayed back in England. However, after Vicario has lost his first choice role to Anton Kinski, it's understood that Spurs have already given the green light for him to leave, and they are only going to offer further encouragement to Juventus to try and close this deal for Vicario, who we understand the Italian side at the moment are leading the race for his signature. Now, the preference of Juventus, we understand at the moment, would be a loan with an option to buy for Vicario rather than an obligation, which may provide an obstacle between the clubs, but a conditional obligation is one potential solution. So we will see how that does play out. Another player that we do expect to leave Tottenham by the end of the window is, of course, club captain Christian Romero, who we are hearing suggestions that Tottenham are desperate, absolutely desperate to find Romero a new home by the end of this summer window. Now, the finances of this move are apparently not going to favour Tottenham at all. It's as of whatever ends up with Romero and wherever he goes. Now, his agent, Serlo Palermo, was in Milan ahead of a potential move to Inter on Friday. And he was pictured at the time actually in negotiations where Inter are apparently really trying to make progress with this deal at the moment. Now, Inter are confident they're going to get Tottenham to lower their price for Romero to around the 35 million, 40 million euro bracket, which would see Romero, in terms of putting it into English, obviously GBP, that would be just around 25, 30 million, which for the club captain, Mitch, you was only here last week when there were suggestions of Chelsea, you was unhappy. But I think your common consensus was that you wouldn't mind him going if it's not to a Premier League club. Where are you on the fact that that fee Inter are quite confident they're going to get it down to Romero for around the 35 million euro mark? Would you just be happy to see him leave the football club?
If Inter Milan pick up Christian Romero for 30 million quid, that's a bargain of the summer. He's worth double that, in my opinion. But I think, unfortunately, that's the situation we've put ourselves in. That is the situation we have put ourselves in. We've bought and replaced him already. Clubs know we have to sell, and ideally we want to sell him abroad. I don't think he wants to stay in England particularly either. So we've kind of got our hands tied in this situation. And look, it is what it is, but I genuinely do just think he's worth double that. I mean, Palace, Chelsea signing Lacroix for 52 million quid, and Romero's at least double the player he is.
He's won a World Cup. He's won a Copa America.
It's just ridiculous.
Won a Europa League trophy.
We spoke about this last week on the show. The European clubs just don't have the same money that Premier League clubs do, and that's unfortunately probably the situation that we're just going to have to deal with. Yeah. I don't mind Inter Milan as a club, and if he goes there, then fair play. It's a good move for him. It's a good signing for Inter Milan, and we might just get shafted with the fee a little bit. But I would still say it is the sign that we are acting in the way that we should do, because he has to go this summer. He can't stay. He can't be at the club when the transfer window closes. It would be utterly insane. The situation just is what it is, unfortunately. I can't remember how much we paid for him, right? But we would have paid more than 30 million quid. I don't think I'm wrong in saying that. So, no. I mean, since then he's won the World Cup, he's won 2 Copa America since we signed him. Just, he's a very, very good defender. To lose money on him like that, baffle me, to be honest, but it is what it is.
Bill, let's come to you. Take it away from Romero. Is that a ridiculous fee that we should be considering around the 30 million bracket, if that's the case? I mean, look, we've made it clear there on that update with Romero that Spurs are willing maybe to take a loss on him because they just want him out the door and they're desperate to find him another football club.
Yeah, so we signed him for 42 million, I just checked, which is obviously 5 years ago now, which is, football's changed an awful lot in that time. So I think that he's got to be worth at least 40 million for me. But at the same time, it might just be a case of you want him at the door and get him gone. So I think we're going to have to take a reduced fee. At the same time, we can't take the mick out of it. Like some of the players that have been going, like he's until the final, he was a shoo-in to be in the World Cup team of the season. It was brilliant for Argentina again. We've seen him do it for Tottenham in the Europa League run. We've seen him do it for Argentina. He's been man of the match in 2 international finals for Argentina and player of the tournament in the Europa League. Like, this is an incredibly high stock defender when he switched on. So he's also on high wages as well. I think he's on about 200 grand a week at Tottenham. So I think we might have to take a hit for a transfer fee, but at the same time, we can't be selling a player like Cristiano Romero for £30 million. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, listen, we'll have to update you obviously when we get a further information on Romero. But from what we're hearing at the moment, Spurs just want Romero out the building, desperate for him to find another club this summer. And as I said at the top of the update with Romero, the finance of this move will not favour Spurs, but they're willing to admit they just want him out the door. From what we're hearing, they want to get a fee just to get him out and at the football club. That's the reality. Right. We're going to pivot. We are going to go to Richarlison just to look to close on the show here. Now, the update with regards to Richarlison, again, depending if you're a Richarlison fan, if you're not a Richarlison fan, it's going to go either two ways for you, right? What we're hearing is that Richarlison at the moment is poised to remain a Tottenham player beyond the end of this summer transfer window. Now, the player has expressed a desire to stay at Tottenham and wants to be part of the new project that Roberto De Zerbi is putting together at Tottenham. Now, as we know, the striker position at the club is by no means secure, but we are aware that Roberto De Zerbi is a big fan of Dominic Solanke. And as things stands at this window point, we don't expect Dominic to be leaving the football club. And Richarlison has looked the one up until now to be the most likeliest to leave this summer. But the key of this is that Richarlison has to want to go elsewhere. I believe his contract at the moment is that he's got a year left with an option of an additional year as things stand. So in reality, we're not in the final 12 months. Richarlison, by all accounts we hear, is really happy at Tottenham and doesn't want to leave the football club. So I suppose it's now the question of how Tottenham navigate this striker situation that they're in, because I think the common feeling around Spurs fans is that we want at least one more striker to come in. Boys, let's close on this story. How do we see this playing out? We'll start with Mitch. Mitch, Richarlison, how do you see this playing out?
Well, clearly however he wants, because he's got away with it for the last 3 or 4 years. I don't understand it. I really don't understand it. And look, Richie's a really lovely guy, and he wears his heart on his sleeve, and he clearly has a lot of love for the club. And I understand he wants to be a part of the project, but I'm sorry, Ricky, he is not good enough, and he's not been good enough for the last few seasons. I don't care if he was our top goal scorer last season. He, in my opinion, is not a good forward. I watched him on the floor more than he was standing up against MK Dons, a team that have just been promoted from League Two the other day. And that is not an unfamiliar sight when it comes to him. He doesn't run in behind. That's not his game. He likes to come deep, receive the ball, and try and hold it up. His issue is he's not good enough or strong enough to actually be able to do it. So the fact that as a club, we haven't just put our foot down and been like, look, I'm sorry, you are not part of our plans here anymore. We are going to sell you whether you like it or not. It is mind-blowing to me. It is utterly mind-blowing. And the issue is, mate, Solanke's not much better. Solanke scored less goals than Richarlison last season. Solanke's injured for half a season every single year. We paid 65 million for him. The two strikers we have at the moment, in my opinion, are a big problem. And that is why I'm so desperate for us to bring a forward in that isn't a winger, someone that can actually score goals. And again, it comes full circle because the market is just a bit crap in that area at the moment. So what do? Do you take a gamble on Solanke and have him as your starting forward and bring in a new winger next to him this season? I don't know, mate. I just feel like if we go into the new season with Solanke and Richarlison as our two strikers, as our two primary goal scorers, the good work that we've done so far in the summer window is pretty pointless to me. Okay, we've improved those areas of the pitch, but it doesn't matter if we can't put the ball in the back of the net. It will just be the same issues again and again and again. If you can't tell, it's a situation that really frustrates me, to be honest, mate.
Well, let's see if Bill can find any more of a positive in that than you can, Mitch, because again, I think what we should consider with Richarlison is not me saying I want to keep him, but just to kind of give everybody the kind of perspective on it, that we're hearing that unless a top club comes in for him, and it's still possible, look, because we're only, as things stands, coming towards the end of July, there's still a long way of the window to go, we've still got 5-6 weeks left here to run, then he wants to stay because he loves the football club. And also I think what you have to consider, Bill, and I think we said this on a previous show, is that he's now got his citizenship, hasn't he, to stay in the UK. Yeah. So he's not in any rush for Richarlison to leave the club. Now, I think there were suggestions that maybe Everton looking at him, maybe David Moyes are going to reunite with him. of course, at the Hill Dickinson Stadium, and he's very much well loved at Everton, but nothing has really come to pass with that. And as things stand at the moment, it looks like Richie will be a Tottenham player. Is that how you see it playing out, Bill, between now and the end of the window, or do you expect a couple more twists and turns on this for you?
Yeah, it'd be an interest. I have a feeling that he's going to end up staying just because, I think the club would have been more actively, forceful in trying to sell him by now if they weren't, they were already going to make that decision. I think the fact that he doesn't want to go and the club don't seem to have made any sort of active move to sell him probably indicates that he probably will end up staying, which I think, for me, I would sell both of our forwards this season. I think, it's time to move on from both of them. I don't think either of them, Richarlison, I love Richarlison, really top guy. Solanke, I was really disappointed with him last season, sort of the way that he couldn't stay fit and was, at times poor when he did. I think, for me, I think we need, if we have aspirations to be in this team that we want to be, I'd move on from both of them, to be honest, and really reinvent our whole entire forward line. I think at best I will sign one of them, and we'll probably try and keep Solanke and possibly sell Richarlison, but just don't. He's not going to go to Saudi. He's not going to go to Turkey and places like that. I think the only way I could see him going is if Everton come in for him, which is a club that he loves. But are they going to do that? So I would imagine that he'll probably end up staying. I think we need to be really ruthless and really invest money into our forward line, because that's our biggest area of need for me. We just do not have enough goal scorers in our forward line at all. So if it was up to me, I'd sell the pair of them and really get some high quality strikers in. But I can actually see a world where we actually start that first game of the season with both of them. And like Mitch says, but I think if we do start with both of them, we have to have brought in another striker as well to go on top of them, because you can have 2 strikers, 3 strikers, 2 forwards, 3 forwards. So I actually think Richarlison will run his contract down and end up going for free. If I was held at gunpoint, that's what I'd go for.
Absolutely. And just to remind everybody out there, before we close and remind you what we've done on Substack, what is to come on Substack so far, just a brief, very quick reminder, just to let you know in terms of the bullet point headlines that have come in this last 24 hours when it comes to the window of some of our other players, younger players and their situation. Alfie Dorrington's move to Pogon Sejin is now off. He has had a change of heart and wants to find another club, ideally in England. We are also hearing that Junai Byford has been told personally by Roberto De Zerbi he's part of his plans for next season. So Junai Byfield is going to be staying around. And that is alongside as well Callum Olasise, who is expected to stay at Tottenham and challenge for minutes ahead of this upcoming season. The 19-year-old is currently recovering from injury, but has been told by Roberto De Zerbi that he is massively part of his plans. And we know De Zerbi has been massively impressed by 2 young Spurs players in this last week. One being Jamie Donnelly, who we're going to hope to see a lot of minutes for Jamie ahead of this upcoming pre-season tour, and also Malachi Hardy, who is highly regarded at the club, recently signed a long-term contract and is massively, massively rated by a lot of internal members at Tottenham. And there's a hope that Malachi Hardy will get some decent game time during this tour and probably end up either staying with the club to try and, again, continue his development, or maybe we'll get a loan. One player that won't be coming in, one player that we know has gone elsewhere, is Crescenzo Somerville. Apparently, he had no interest whatsoever to follow Matheus Fernandes on the short trip across London out of respect to West Ham. But listen, guys, to close, I want to say a massive thank you again to an audience of nearly over 12,500 that have joined us in this episode of Last One on Spurs. Just a reminder out there, guys, for those that haven't yet joined us on Substack and what's to come on Substack, I'll let the boys maybe close us on this, because, again, we've got a lot of stuff that's coming up this week. Boys, who wants to kick off on that to get us going in terms of what we've done so far and what's to come?
Yeah, I'll go for it. So after this, we have got we're going to be recording a keep, sell or loan with all the players that are on tour and a couple of others as well. We are playing 2 friendly matches this week, so we'll be previewing them and reviewing them and all that jazz. And it's good because it gets us to do kind of content which we don't get to do on long form podcasts like rankings and player ratings and stuff like that. So should be good, right, Mitch?
Yes, should be very, very exciting. We're going to have lots of breakdowns, a bit more of a look in depth into the tactical side of things under De Zerbi, what's changing. A lot more of the intricate stuff as well, stuff we don't really have the time and, I guess, resources to go into depth to as much as possible on these shows. And like we've said, we've got plenty of transfer stuff going on over at Substack as well that you don't really want to miss out on. So, yeah, come and check us out. Come and subscribe. It's a very cool community over there.
Mitch, you're a star. Bill, you're a star. For those that want to, again, see that community in more detail, you can follow the details, top right-hand corner of the show or on the playback. That QR code takes you straight through to the opportunity to become a member with us. But from myself, from the superb Billy T, from the brilliant Mitch Fretton, we've been the last one on Spurs. Thank you so much for your time. And as always, come on, you Spurs.